Israel's military escalation in the West Bank is being described as a slow motion ethnic cleansing. How do you assess the situation on the ground?
Well, we have witnessed today and actually for more than 23 days now escalations in the West Bank, and the Israelis are targeting civilians, Palestinian civilians from house to house and from village to village. We have seen attacks in northern West Bank in places like Tulkarm and Nur Shams, and we have seen other attacks in Hebron and Khalil and even in Beit Lahem and other places, as well as, of course, the most of the violence being in Jenin. And it really raises questions because they claim that they are there after militants from Hamas and other Palestinian factions, but the fact is they have killed, as usual, women and children, and they have detained Palestinian young girls. So once again, it's all about terrorizing the Palestinians and making their lives harder and their existence in their homeland more difficult and difficult every day.
Now, this campaign has displaced tens of thousands, with entire refugee camps being emptied. What does this tell about Israel's long term objectives?
Well, there are speaking about the a scheme to annex the West Bank, and this would be a preliminary plan to evacuate it from the Palestinians and push them towards the Jordanian borders. But given the fact that there are Israeli settlements and Israeli civilians living in enclaves and settlements between these villages, so the mechanism they are using is different from what they have done in Gaza. But what we can see is that they are even targeting not just refugee camps. Today they have targeted in El Arub, they targeted the UNRWA clinic and they turned it into a detention center where they are detaining Palestinians and investigating them and interrogating them. And we cannot really see anything that is really targeting specific militants or specific operations. It's more of, as you said in the beginning, ethnic cleansing, terrifying the civilians. It's just pushing people out of their villages and houses. It's very clear.
Now, the Palestinian Authority has described Israel's actions as ethnic cleansing, as you said, respectively. Yet, Western governments continue to offer only mild condemnations. Why do you think there is such silence on this very particular issue?
Well, because Israel is marketing the idea that the Palestinian militants are living amongst the civilians. In October 2023, with the start of the whole tension, the EU suspended aid to the Palestinians, claiming that the aid from the European Commission was used to support the so-called terrorist groups. And even when it was resumed last October, in October 2024, many of the European countries, especially Denmark, Sweden, Germany, they said that they will just bring back the aid to humanitarian affairs like medical aid and so on. So the international community sometimes is afraid of condemning what Israel is doing, or else it will be allegedly supporting terrorism, or as Israel says, these militants are targeting the Israeli security, and whoever is helping by convention or even by aid is just helping terrorists to fortify their positions.
What we're seeing in the Palestinian occupied territories, what do we call that? Now, do you believe the international community will take meaningful action to prevent this from becoming another full-scale war like in Gaza?
I don't think anyone is doing anything to stop it. And even the so-called peace broker in the Middle East, the US, is openly supporting, pushing the Palestinians out of their lands. And even if the US president has something to say about Gaza and it's not adequate for living, so how about the West Bank? Why are you pushing people out of West Bank? It's just part of the bigger plan to push the Palestinians out of their lands, whether in Gaza or the West Bank, and moving the whole problem to neighboring countries and putting the, if I may say, the burden of the Palestinian population on other parts of the world rather than the homeland, the legitimate homeland of the Palestinians.
That's the objective of the Israeli and the American side you're speaking about. Now, some
Yes.
Israeli politicians are openly supporting the mass removal of Palestinians from Gaza and the West Bank. Now, how much of this is Israeli domestic politics, and how much is it is being enabled by Trump's rhetoric in Washington?
Well, in the Israeli media, it's now said that it's impossible for, as Netanyahu said last week, it's impossible a two-state solution to be implemented. We cannot live along the Palestinians any longer. So many of the common Israeli citizens are now thinking the same. Let them just leave. Let them just go to the neighboring countries. And when you find support from the US president and some international officials to the idea, the Israeli citizen thinks, oh, maybe this is a solution to all the problems that the Israeli government is facing. And actually, the Israeli government is demolishing the houses of the Palestinians today in the West Bank in a way that even if they could go back to their houses, they don't find them. We have seen all these scenes from Jenin, from Tulkarm, where the houses are demolished, the cars, the schools, the infrastructure. And again, there is no enough international aid to replace or to repair or to reconstruct all these places. So it's obvious that the goal is, as much as we're trying to push the Gazans out of the strip, we are also going to wish the people from the West Bank towards Jordan.
Now, you're saying here that the voices who are rejecting those actions, either in Israel or in the United States, are voiceless. They are not even heard, right?
Yes, yes,
Now,
yes, and it's now delivered as uh, um, there is a impossibility of the co-living. So the only chance for us to live in peace, this has been said in the Israeli media, the only peace that can be achieved is for the Palestinians to leave the land and leave the Israeli live on it alone. And this is what the Israeli forces is trying to do parallelly in both Gaza and the West Bank.
now, finally, with this growing aggression, is there is a risk that Palestinian resistance will expand into a new phase, uniting Gaza and the West Bank in a broader confrontation with Israel?
Well, it might happen if the Israeli aggression escalated, because there are places in the West Bank are famous for their long history and resistance. We're talking about Jenin, about Al Khalil, Hebron, and who knows, maybe if the Palestinians felt that they are going to face the same destiny that happened to Gaza, if they are going to lose everything, so they will escalate into maybe the same scale of resistance, if I may say. And this would be perhaps the first time we see a unity between the Palestinian factions, Fatah, Hamas, Al Jihad, and everyone, because what else do they have to lose?